Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 67 of Petey's Awesome Guest Panel. And let me just tell you folks, I am incredibly excited and honored to welcome one of the most legendary voice actors, producers, coach, you name it. He has done it all in the voice acting industry. Talking about a man who's pretty much done every single animation series, every popular one nonetheless, in the last 3 decades, including Tailspins, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Bonkers, Darkwing Duck, Denver, The Last Dinosaurs, you name it. Not only that, this gentleman has worked on many major animation production companies such as Fox, Disney, Warner Brothers, and I'm very proud to say this one because I always loved this company growing up, Filmation.
Yes.
In addition to that, this man is an award-winning voice actor, as he's won twice in 1998 an Annie Award for his work in the 1987 Teenage Mutant Turtles animated series for his role in Krang, and once again reprising his role as Krang in the 2012 series, winning this time the Behind the Voice Actor Award for Best Male Vocal Leader in an Ensemble's performance for his role in 2012 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Lastly, he is a man that I have not only been a fan of for many, many years, but someone in the voice acting industry that I have so much great admiration and respect for. My guest at this time is the legendary, the iconic, Pat Fraley. Pat, welcome, sir. How are you today?
Wow, Petey, how wonderful I get to finish my career by being on your show.
This is awesome, and I already get the legendary Krang coming out. This is great.
Well, you know, it's what I got. Legendary, don't you have to be dead to get that?
Not at all. Not at all. You reached legacy point like since the 70s. Like it was almost instant.
Well, no, it wasn't instant. In fact, I met a producer at Hanna-Barbera, Don Jurich, who we lost last year, in Tahiti. And I think I did so many different characters, hi Hal, you know, that he said, look, if you just shut up, I'll listen to your demo. So we got back to LA, listened to my demo, and said, yeah, you know, you ought to come down. Well, I was there within days. And I started working as a guest on Scooby-Doo Doo-Doos or whatever. And it took me 3 years to get a regular role. So I was there, you know, and fortunately I didn't have to do a day job because I had one that paid and my wife was working at that time. So I had money.
Oh. And Pat, let me just say that you already answered my first question. I didn't even answer it yet. And that was your first, like, how did you get your first start in the voice acting industry?
Well, that was it. And then, in fact, I talked to Don Jurich years later. I said, why did you hire me? He also got me the best agent in town with one phone call, Herb Tannen at that time. And again, I said, why'd you hire me? He said, well, I felt guilty. Here you came to town with your new wife, and what was I going to do? Sure, I was talented, but all of us are talented. It's a big difference, Pete, to go from good to excellence. I'm going to ask you a question.
What's up?
You know the actor John Malkovich?
Of course. Like the movie Being John Malkovich.
Well, I don't say anything. Right. What was the first thing you saw him in?
It would have to have been that one. Being John Malkovich was the first production I saw of his.
Right. Was he good or excellent?
I loved his performance.
Right. Okay. They asked John Malkovich, and by the way, the only reason we know how to pronounce it is because he's so excellent and has been from the get-go, right? They asked him how many auditions did he have to do. You know what his answer was?
What was it?
One. I mean, come on. I've done thousands, but he's that good. So he's that excellent. Same with Renee Zellweger. We pronounce that right because she's been excellent from the beginning. If you're good, you'll work, but you have to chase work. If you're excellent, they chase you. And here I'm already teaching, but I can't help it. I have a passion for performing and teaching.
That's beautiful. And can I say too, since I'm in somewhat of a similar field, since I'm in a teach, I do teaching myself because I'm a teacher assistant for special needs. There's nothing more than just helping out and just knowing that you made a difference every day.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's a term now called coach. Well, here's what it breaks down to. A teacher teaches skills. A coach refines skills. And there's a little bit of the encouragement factor in the coach. It's like a trainer at a gym and helps you practice. Well, a good teacher does all that except the practice. Nobody does the practice. I mean, that's up to the performer. But a good teacher teaches skills, refines skills because they know who they're teaching, and they're encouraging in as much as their words. They speak the truth, but with a little love. I was taught at Cornell when I got my MFA in acting horribly. Oh, they were so mean. But I thought, what's the last thing you want to do is encourage fear out of a performer. That's our greatest enemy, fear. And so you don't want to make them nervous, but you don't want to shun them on either. But that's what a good teacher is.
I agree. And I want to get your philosophy like on a method of this too, like as a teacher though. Like when when doing a role as a when performing, are there any warm-ups or preparations like when recording that you would do or recommend to any voice actor at all?
I used to, but I don't do it now, but I used to. And I'd say, first of all, try to sing anything by Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, because it's impossible. Don't go away, right? Right. Also, don't do tongue twisters. No, just stretch it. You know, it's like stretching muscles. And forgive me, but you got to go. Chew an apple, a pantomimed apple, and then put some marshmallow in there, pantomime, and then peanuts, and finish it all off, and get it out of your right. That's what you do.
Yeah.
And
And
have fun. And have fun. Don't make anything a drudgery. If it's not fun, you're doing it wrong.
so no tongue twisters, right? Like no Peter Pica Pecca Pickle Pepper or no red letter, yellow letter, right?
Right. A toy boat, toy boat, toy boat. Because look at my mouth. Toy boat, toy boat. No, it's better to go stretch the muscles.
Like
And the tongue's really, and I'll spare you that, Pete. Right. But the tongue, stretching the tongue is real important.
absolutely, especially when you have pronunciations. Like some people will say water and then they will say water, right?
Well, yeah, and I'm from the Pacific Northwest. I grew up in Seattle, and we actually trill. We say water, battery. Hear that? Rrr?
Oh, you roll the
Like,
R's, right?
and when I went east, I'd say, suddenly the moth went to the flame. And they go, wait a minute, what? Math? Why do you say math? I said, no, I said moth. Oh, you mean math? Well, it's moth. AW sound. And I substitute AH to this day. I have to go through a script and put AW over jaw, walk, talk, because I'll go jaw, walk, talk. Sound like I'm California, you know.
I have to ask you too, Pat, like, because this is a curious scenario, so I always wanted to ask you this. I actually, my previous guest stars, including the last two ones I had, Lorna Scott and Nancy Eiderstein, and that is if, like, as a director, if you, like, what do you require in your voice actor, when directing voice actors, what do you require in performance? Like, what do you search for, like, when you direct?
I don't know. You know, I'm not a very good director. I'm a good teacher, a good performer, or excellent, whatever. Not so good at directing. The last person I directed was Scott Brick, and he was reading The Great Gatsby. Now, he's got so good, he doesn't really need a director. In fact, I got him to tears laughing because he did like a half a page or whatever. And I said, Scott, do it better. The worst comment a director can give to anybody, but that's what I got. You know, I'll tell you what I look for generally to begin with, or someone that's talented God gave them these talents and they didn't really deserve them, but they got them, right? Is how to tell a story. And Scott always said, and I've taught with him for 10 years, I tell a joke because the structure of a joke is like doing a book. You know, there's a beginning, middle, and end. And don't avoid conflict, because conflict is the nucleus to all story. It's the middle. And so you want to come out with it fast. I mean, name a story, any story. Petey, go ahead.
Um,
A fable, anything.
okay. So dinosaurs in a. So you want me to give us?
No, name one that somebody that everybody knows, like a fairy tale or something like that.
Oh, okay. Humpty Dumpty.
Okay, Humpty Dumpty. The log line for Humpty Dumpty is egg falls, cracks. Right, that's it. So it's conflict, right? Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, Humpty Dumpty. So when I begin, I don't go Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. I do this. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Right? You already know from the first words, uh-oh, something's coming. That's what I look for, is how to tell a story.
And I just want to, reinforce what you just said, though, because I've always believed that the best, type of writing is how to tell a great story. And you are absolutely one of the most best storytellers in the world. Like, I actually had this question for you, like, specifically too. If you were given a scenario, like, as a director, and one of your voice actors, it requires a scene where it's these two people that had a heated confrontation, and one of them has to cry. And to do that, like, I always believe in raw emotion, like to captivate, to like, try to, cap on a person's raw emotion to help sell, to make it look believable. So if I approached you, Pat, like one day, if I was a voice actor and I said, excuse me, Mr. Fraley, and I would say that too because I have so much respect for you. I would say, excuse me, Mr. Fraley, I had this idea for my character that I was thinking about doing, though. Like, I just wanted to run it by you, where like it requires like my character and another character to get into a heated argument, and my character require the cry. And I was thinking about actually like activating a real life emotion, like using real emotion but fake reasons, like to actually like cry, like upset. So I was thinking, like, it may sound weird at first, Pat, but I would need you to actually like scream. I need you to be harsh on me and scream really bad. I mean, to make sure you actually make me cry. Like, I know it's weird to sound, but there's no way I could fake a real crying. How would you react if a voice actor approached you with that type of method?
Well, if you're working with a good actor, even a bad actor, you tell them, or they will be tough on you. So, because we've all heard acting is reacting. So crying real, right? It doesn't matter what your reaction is, whether you remember how to cry or how it sounds and you do it, or you're actually crying real. The problem with crying real is you have to do it several times, right? And that becomes a difficulty because you can't cry over and over again. It's really difficult, but you can remember how it is to cry. Plus, if it's a game or animation, now a game is 85% drama and realistic. Animation is 85% comedy, and comedy's a lie. I mean, it doesn't exist. People don't make other people laugh all the time, right? So if I remember how to cry, and I don't know where the microphone is, I think it's up here, then I'm gonna feel like I'm gonna sound like I'm crying. But if it's animation, I might go, I don't know. Right now, how do I do that? I fried a little saliva at the top of my roof of the mouth. It's like this. I always do that because that's what we do, but it's exaggerated. And Pete, my entire career, the joke is I don't understand subtlety. I mean, I was fine with theater in French farce, but give me Chekhov, the pilot light went out. I'm more interested in exaggeration. And I'll tell you why. I grew up, my grandfather taught the deaf all his life. And so I grew up around deaf people, or my mom who used to sign, you know, when well, that was dumb. She'd sign while she talked. And if you've ever seen deaf people, it's a wonderful, a splendid show of exaggeration. They exaggerate their actions and movement. Well, I picked up on that, and I'm more comfortable exaggerating than being real or behavioral.
I see.
That's a long answer to a short question, but that's it.
No, it's a very good one too. Like, so in other words, like you would say exaggeration like it would be much easier and better to do than the real thing, right?
No,
Oh,
I
okay.
think if you did the real, it depends on the style of the show. For example, where I failed at Batman was when it came along, I'd spent a couple decades doing Hanna-Barbera cartoony shows, even Ninja Turtles, because it came by in the 90s, I think, early. And when they say, okay, this is realistic, it's different than the other ones, we went, yeah, right, realistic. But guess what? It was the first realistic cartoon show, and I wasn't cast. Well, I'd get cast once in a while doing an exaggerated character, but not regularly. And I find it's more difficult to be real than to do a character. Other people find it the opposite. For example, animation's easy for me to do. E-learning is difficult. Why? Because e-learning is not performing. It's being a teacher.
Yeah.
It's talking to another person like I'm talking to you now. You're smart. I'm close to you. I'm not too loud. And I don't sound like I'm, narrating. And I'm thinking. I'm giving you the impression that I'm thinking about what I'm going to say.
I understand.
That's difficult. I used to watch, by the way, Henry Fonda. You remember that actor?
Uh,
Yeah, Henry Fonda, what?
oh,
Jim Stewart hero. And I'd look at him and I go, well, that's not acting. He's just behaving like Jimmy Stewart, right?
yeah. So,
Oh, I found out how difficult that was later on. Now it's easy for me now because I'm near death. Okay. If somehow you get over 70 and everything becomes more easy because you're getting ready to die.
Pat, you don't look a day over 20.
Good. I'm glad you have the filters on.
No filter. Oh, I had another question too. Did you, out of all the duties you performed, which did you prefer, voice acting or producing or teaching?
I think it's a toss-up before performing voiceover cartoons, big or characters other than me, and teaching. When I was a little boy, I used to do both all the time. I'd die like a soldier, really good, and then I'd show the other kids how to die good. And I was 4 years old because there's something that God gave me about an ability to perform, but an analytical side where I always say, now, what did you do? What did you do to get that? And I think they're two different skills. And I've known some wonderful actors, better than I, they can't teach. And I've known some teachers that can't. I had one, Peter Stelzer in Cornell, a brilliant teacher and director, couldn't act himself out of a paper bag. It was horrible. So two different skills.
Yeah. I want to ask you too, like, were there any like series that you worked on where you were allowed to improvise or like ad lib a joke to enhance a scene, a particular scene or line?
What particularly what?
Was there any series that you worked on where you were
Oh
allowed
yeah,
to control, like
Bobby's World. Bobby's World was produced by Howie Mandel. You know that guy? He's
course.
bald.
He
He's
was
a
one of my-
judge.
You actually have one of my questions. I was actually going to ask you about that. As Meeker.
Okay, well, Howie Mandel would encourage it. And the writers were very good, Jim Stoll and Jim Fisher. And Rob Paulson and I played an odd thing. We played the same character I was like this and a mall guard, and he was like he was a mall guard. And they took the high voice and put him in the fat guy, and took the skinny guy visually and give him the big voice. Well, Rob Paulson and I, who I did Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with, love to ad lib. We entertained each other. And so we got in there and we'd ad lib stuff. And Jim Stoll and Jim Fisher, the writers, when the director, Jenny McSwain, said, where's the lines for, Pat and Rob? And they said, we don't write anymore. They're going to ad lib anyway. So what happened was, and this was a brilliant time in my career, one of the greatest things, is that they mixed up and they had written Meeker and Smurd, the two names, and they transposed it. So there were opposite lines, right? Okay, so I'd written down Rob's ad libs and he wrote down mine. We'd trade them off, right? Well, we got it wrong that day, and he's on the other side of 12 people. So I take out the ad libs Rob has written for me. Are you following me on this?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, then I pass them down. Gail Mathias, Tino Ansano, other these wonderful actors, and passed it along. Here's Rob's ad libs, right? They passed that along, right? And they've handed over to Frank Welker, who was a luminary in voices, and he cried until he wept. Where else would you hear and have someone hand ad libs to someone else? It's just unusual. It's unique. And forget the improv. Just doing that was such a flush of freedom.
Was Howie cool to work with too?
Oh, yeah. This is before he admitted to having a germ problem. And he was a wonderful guy to work with. Yeah, he loved comedy, see, and we were comedic.
Huh. Okay. Another project that you worked on, of course, was Tailspin as Wildcat. And I want to get your memories of shooting a Tailspin and, of course, working with the late, great Eddie Gilbert, who voiced Baloo.
Right.
Well, I talk like this, and it's just a rancho banana. I forgot. Oh, look, there's a new island on the map. No, it's guacamole. So I played a character. They had a hard time casting it, right? They went through really good Peter Cullen and everybody because he looked stupid, prognathic jaw, like that. And I thought, well, I think I'll play stupid, but I'll play him naive, as you just heard. So he sounded like that, And Ginny let me ad lib a lot. She was the director. And so I forgot what I was going to say. Hold on here.
Sure.
So what happened was but as I mentioned to you, I grew up around the deaf. And if you notice, here's a Wildcat talker, and here's a deaf person, and my impression of a deaf person without tone. You see the similarity? Oh, hi, Baloo, how you doing? Baloo, how you doing? Right? Also, people just don't arrive deaf, or they, there's other complications. And so I made him naive because he was out, almost like he was on the spectrum or autistic, as they used to say. So here I do this character. Now, I didn't know this, but 20 years later, I did. There was an autistic gal on the spectrum, seriously. She'd go to school, public school, because they had the resources, on a bus, and get humiliated all day, teased, right? Because she acted strange. She'd come home, and after school, Monday through Friday, Tailspin, she'd watch a show with Wildcat. Someone challenged, she looked at him as challenged, and everybody loved him. And that made a big difference in life. And a psychologist called me, 10, 15 years ago and said, would you talk to this person? I went, sure. To this day, I'm in touch with her. And I even flew out, and she lives in upstate New York, and went to her graduation for something. A delightful person. And I've known her for 10, 15 years. And that's my favorite show. Why? My job is amusement, right? Amuse in Greek means not think. So when you're laughing, you're not thinking, right?
Yeah.
Doing that made it more meaningful to me. Like Bob Hope, who wasn't funny, but he was funny overseas. But what we didn't know is he would perform for a group of 15,000 Marines at Tarawa. The next day, half were dead. But he gave them something before they died. And it gave meaning to his career. That's why he kept going overseas. Bob Hope, the comedian, right?
Yeah. He did the USO shows.
Yes.
I definitely okay. I have to ask this question too because this is this is like a dominant question too, and that is memories of your time working on the 1987 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and working with the entire cast, James
Sure.
Avery, your cousin Cam, everybody.
Well, I'll tell you what, as I mentioned, Fred Wolf, the producer, was very cheap. And the director had cast himself in 4 major characters and performed the pilot on the weekend, which is more dull, right? He was fired and I took his place. I auditioned to take his place. Krang, Vern Thompson, Vernon, and Baxter. Well, I got it. And I told Fred, I can't do one of them. So they gave Vernon, the assistant to Vern Thompson, right, to Pete Renaday. And he was delightful. He was wonderful. And because Fred was cheap, he wanted us all there and there were no guests. So you'd go, in those days, you got 3 characters for the price of 1, right? And so he'd go, who's lighting the contract? That means you only have 2. And so I am, a couple would raise their hand and go, hey, you're the Asian professor. And we go, well, I don't do Asian. You do now. And that's how we learned on the job. We were on the last shows where you could learn on the job, and we did. I love the show. I sat next to Rob for 9 years. Now, can you imagine? Even in Bonanza and these shows that went on forever, they never had this. I went in once a week and sat next to the same guy in the same seat for 9 years.
That's incredible.
I never even had a scene with Raphael, but I loved his ad-libbing and he loved mine.
Oh, you two were just gems, like when improvising and just the show in itself, like, and of course, and everybody says you probably get this like a million times, but what you and James Avery did as Shredder and Krang as the funny married couple, like type of plot and storyline, and of course I want to get your thoughts on working with Mr. Avery. He's no longer with us, but I just
Right. Well, James was an unusual guy. He was a very good actor, and I had just done a show with him called Hulk Hogan's Rock and Wrestling, and he played the dog, and he went before every line he did, right? Well, when we see in the script, his line was coming up as he went to go we'd all go and drive him nuts. But he was a wonderful actor. But I knew he was a Johnny One Note. He plays Shredder this way. He didn't change very much from right like that.
So that gave me the permission to go all over the place and do any way I wanted.
And the combination was good to the ear. Now, we didn't see each other. He was at the front of the booth and I was in the back. So I was maybe 20 feet away from him, but I knew him well. I knew what his choices would be, even good choices. And also I must say this, that after the first year, the writing got so good. We didn't have to ad lib because the writing was really good. It was well cast.
Wow. And but the casting too, I gotta ask too, like, because there was times where in credits where it showed, and sometimes, and I want to get your opinion on this, where there's characters that are voiced by other characters. For instance, your character Krang at one time, I think in one episode, was voiced by Townshend Coleman.
Right, a couple of them. In fact, I still tease Townsend to this day because here I am. I take my family to Hawaii. I know Townie really well because our kids go to Village Christian together. both Christians. We used to have the church of the open car door before we'd go in and perform, and we'd pray and then go in. So I knew him very well. Well, Fred Will goes, Pat's not here. Who can do Krang? Well, he raises his hand. And when I got back, I went, are you kidding me? Why would you do that? And he was embarrassed. But it was always that way. When somebody was gone, and that was cheaper because they didn't have to bring in a guest.
I see. And I still remember how Townshend did it though. Like he did it like it was episode Cowabunga Shredhead, and he did it like this. Shredder, do you have a plan to take out the turtles this time?
Yeah.
Well, he did the higher voice. I went really
Low and up, backwards. Something I learned in the 4th grade, right, on recess. But he was good. He was better than I was, really. But he was excellent at doing it. But I give him a lot of grief over it to this day.
Oh, I thought you both were great as Krang. I love Townsend's work. He's an excellent voice actor, but with Krang, definitely goes to you. I loved
I'm
yours.
going to tell you something. I did a show called The Tick, and we different people were cast as The Tick. I was. Then I lost that to the creator of the show, and then it went to Townshend. I'm going to tell you, it's one of the best performances ever. Is The Tick by Townshend Coleman.
Oh yeah.
And he was he lacked confidence when he started. He always felt that he was out of his league. He was with these guys that were really good, and he was trying. But that's where he really showed his mettle.
True. And I definitely got to ask too about your opinion. I asked this to your cousin Cam on the show when I had him, and that was, did you see the 2009 CW, I think it was CW for Kids, 2009 Turtles Forever movie, which the 1987 Turtles met the 2003 Ninja Turtles and traveled all the way back to meet the Mirage Turtles of 1982, I believe.
You know what, Pete? I remember recording it and getting paid, but I didn't see it. And I'll tell you what, I've only seen about 6 episodes of the hundreds we did. Why? I'm kind of busy doing stuff. It's sort of like a plumber. He doesn't go to his own home and fix his cistern. It'll take, or a guy that has the worst car in town is a mechanic. And it's sort of like, well, when I get old, I'll watch what I did. Or, I can see hour after hour later, but I haven't seen stuff.
I understand. And I did want to ask too, like, did you ever get to meet the co-creators of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Fred, Kevin Eastman, and Peter Laird?
Yeah, nice guys. You wouldn't know them from a guy and go bowling with. They're very gracious and nice guys, and they love my work. And of course, that means they're right, of course. But creating a character, and I really created Krang based on what I saw and what he, they liked it, they enjoyed it, and it's not always the case. Certainly when it comes from a comic book, because they have something in their ear.
Were they fan? Because everyone, like, there's always a thing like where the movie and the book and like stuff are like different though. Like, how did do you know how they felt about Fred Wolf's Ninja Turtles series?
Well, first of all, by the way, the Michael Bay, who did the directed at least a couple of the Ninja Turtles, hated my Krang. He got my buddy Brad Garrett. He got anybody but me. But going back to Eastman and what they wanted to do, they were told, look, if you want to sell this, you got to make it a kid show, because it was adult in the comic books.
Yeah.
Right? And they had to make a decision, and they went for a kid show. To this day, that cartoon show is produced by a toy company. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know. Wait,
I didn't.
Hasbro?
No,
Oh.
no, it's another toy company. Now get there, and we thought we had all runaway hit. We're were great. No, we were selling toys. They made their money on action figures and stuff.
Huh.
They still do.
Wow. And that's royalties, right?
That's what?
Would that be considered like royalties for them?
No.
Okay.
No. What happens is it's like a 22.5-minute commercial every week. We were not only on ABC or one of the networks, we were on independent 11 and 13 and foreign at the same time.
Oh.
It was huge, but it was all about selling toys.
That's incredible. And I do want to know, like, where the origin for each of your respective characters came from. Because I remember watching, like, Ninja Turtles and how excited and energetic you would be, like, as Krang or Casey Jones or Burn Thompson. I remember one episode of Burn, like, where you just run the gamuts with emotion, though, where you were like, April, where are you? Forget about those ones. Come down there. I need you at City Hall right away. Pronto. Go, 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 go.
Well, I think I added the go, right? Because it was up to Robert Crawford. I don't know. You tell me. Go down and go. You know, that's. But I was just trying to be big and fat. In fact, the funny part, it's an action figure, right? Like the turtles have nunchuckers and they have swords and stuff. My character, Burn Thompson, has a ham sandwich with a bite out of it. And he's got a shirt with the buttons going like this, you know, he's fat. I just made him big, right? When I did Baxter Stockman, I knew he'd turn into a fly. I didn't know he died, unfortunately.
But I raised mine, make him my scientist, and then I made him a little angry. And then I do this, if you can see. Well, hello. How are you doing today? To give him that zzz of a fly.
When you had scenes that require like your characters to talk to yourself, did they have you like go like back and forth, like Krang talking to Baxter or vice versa?
Yeah, always. Very rarely have I ever been in a show where somebody did their lines and went back and did the other lines. Why? Either it's faster, right? And we only have 4 hours, right? By our union law. But even back in the day, we did it back and forth. And I think the main reason to do that, even in audiobooks, is acting is reacting. So you don't know if I'm going to say, what's with your hair? Nice hair. If I say, my line is nice hair, right? I want you to say, what are you getting at? And it fits into the way I say it, okay? You react. Nice hair.
Thanks.
Nice hair.
Oh.
Nice hair.
So you want me to react?
It doesn't matter. What I'm showing is there's 3 different responses depending on how I say it. The initiation, the response. And that's why you do line after line, because you really don't know if you go, Shredder, get in here. Shredder, get in here. That's different.
So it's
And
like
so
sorry?
a good actor reacts differently.
Yeah. So it's not a matter of what you say, it's how you say it, right?
Right, even to yourself. Even if you let me do a fast scene from Tom Sawyer.
Okay.
Hello, Huckleberry. Hello yourself and see if you like it. What you got there? Dead frog. Isn't that good? You bet. You know, I use stump water to get rid of a wart. Stump water. I wouldn't give you a darn for stump water.
You see how they fit in a scene together? That's because I'm listening to myself initiate and then I respond.
Okay. And you worked, like I said in the introduction, you worked on many different animation companies. Was there a difference between working, like, for instance, any rules or like, kind of like procedures like that any of them have, like Filmation, Disney, Fox, like any kind of
Yeah. In fact, Filmation was the strangest because once you get in the Filmation group, you're in. And Sue Blue and I did about 120 shows together. Now, in fact, when we cast one show, Lou Scheimer, who headed it up, had us come in the office, be cast, and he had design sheets out. and he had a cup of coffee, and he goes, Pat, what do you want to play? Well, I mean, well, that one, and I can probably separate from that one. Okay, what about you? You know, that's where they cast it. Now, when we went there, Filmation was the last show that was actually produced all the way through in one building. No other animation house did that. They sent, to get their cells done, they sent it to the Philippines, Singapore, China, Australia, you know, they sent it away. No, it was right there. And we used to go in, we get our scripts in the mail, and Lou would pay us with our royalties in advance. So he paid $1,200, and that was like for perpetuity, really, right? So we get $1,200 a show, and we do it twice a week. So we'd get the script in the mail, look at it on the way to the studio, whatever, get in there. And if we got it right, we didn't do it again. And there were no slate numbers. Why? Because the engineer, the audio engineer, spoke English. That's why you have slate numbers, because of pickups and because you're sending it over to a country that doesn't speak English. That's why every so often it was funny, because somebody would sneeze by mistake and they'd animate it.
Really?
Yeah, because they didn't know.
Was
But Filmation was unusual. It was like a lot of money, and they never had a creative bone in their body, bless their hearts. But, you know, you can't be picky when you do animation. You do some of the best shows and the worst shows ever. I actually was cast and did
Brave Star?
no, that was a good show.
Oh,
Something about clowns from Happy Town. It was so bad. Sue Blue directed it. It was horrible, you know. But you know, then I did good shows too.
you
By
just
the way, Brave Star was a futuristic Western, and I was cast as Brave Star. Eyes of the hawk, ears of the, you know, puma and all that. And it was really good. But they got distribution of the toy before the feature length and the series came on the air. So it died because here again, we were selling toys.
I can't believe that. And with Filmation though, I've always loved the Filmation, like their stuff. Like, and this is what I've always got whenever I watch a Filmation movie or show. I always found the animation to be weird, and it's not bad because I actually love their animation style. Like for instance, Happily Ever After, which came out in 1990 but was released in 1993, had an all-star cast. Ed Asner was in it. Phil Stiller was in it. Carol Channing, among other names. And I noticed they have very similar styles of animation, like where you see like the close-up of the people talking, and then they're not showing any other expressions except their mouth movements.
Right.
And
well, here's why. And Filmation did this from the get-go. They'd library stuff. And so they have a show and they say the medium shot and the actor goes, they would use that. And when they got really hip, they'd only use the eyes, you know, doing this or something, you know, making a little bit of a response, and they'd use that. That's why the style was it had a style to it.
It was. And like I said, that was my favorite part. Filmation was that. And you actually named, you answered one of my questions too. Is it safe to say your favorite and least favorite shows that you worked on were, favorite was Tailspins and least favorite was what'd you say again, sir?
Little Clowns of Happy Town.
Little Clowns of Happy Town.
And we had Russi Taylor and Katie Lee and all of these little, you know, sweet voices. I actually heard, and Charlie Adler and I, and he's really rough, were the villains, and I was like a funny villain. Well, I actually heard, or we heard, Charlie and I heard someone in the booth go, "I'm gonna hug and I need one now."
Oh man, classic. And of course, did you have a favorite or least favorite episode of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the ones that you worked on?
No.
Okay.
Oh yeah. I like doing my bad Marlon Brando playing Ray Fillet in one show, because I had like a line like, "I had to go now," and I went, "I gotta go." barely said it. You know, they let me do my bad Marlon Brando, you know, and they let me do it because I was doing a Marlon Brando. By the way, going back to a question
Sure.
about characters, how you come up with them. Well, in that case, with no guests, when they say, okay, Kate, you're doing Casey Jones. And I looked at a sheet of paper, a line drawing of a guy with a mask on and a, you know, his golf caddy or his golf club box. What do they call it? A
Uh,
golf?
oh, a glove compartment.
No, he's
glove
over his back and he had a hockey stick in it and baseball bat and stuff he used. It was like for golf clubs, a club bag, golf bag.
I see what the
Right.
caddies
I
have.
look at the picture and I go, well, what do I do with this? And somebody said, just to a young Clint Eastwood. So what I did, hello, Violator. Good to see you. I just played a young, and that was it. I did that for lots of characters where it was really Slash, who was a turtle that was passionate and had teeth all over. Well, I thought, okay, passion. I'll do my bad Kirk Douglas. Bert, what are they doing to me? He was in Spartacus. You know, he was always overwrought, right? But then I had the teeth. Sure, I had to do the teeth. Kirk, what are we doing? Shouting, sitting here. That was it.
But would
So
you say,
very simple.
was it similar to when you voiced one of the Mutant Frogs? I don't know if it was Matilda Frog or Napoleon Bona Frog, or there was one of them that you voiced.
I think Jim did Napoleon Frog, and he came back in another show, didn't he?
Yes.
I don't know. I don't remember it. I don't remember doing it, but you know, speaking backwards, I probably did that.
Oh, okay. And of course, memories. We mentioned it earlier. Memories of working on Brave Star as Brave Star and Thundershock.
Thunderstar, I did with an articulation program like this. I had a stepmother that had polio for a while. And so she'd go, hello, Harry. There was a mechanical sound. And so at that time when I did Thunderstick, I over articulated. So he was like, that was a hick dialect. And Brave Star was me. You know, it was me as low as I could go. I didn't play very many heroes. Cowboys of Moo Mesa was one where I played Marshall Moo Montana. And
Was Ace one of them?
Brave Star, well, Marshall Moo Montana was a show with Jim Cummings, Jeff Glenn Bennett, and me. We were starring in it. And here again, Ginny McSwain directed it. And I would have a hobby without Ginny McSwain and Sue Blue. Ginny McSwain liked my characters. I think she looked at them as black orchids with bent pistils. You know, there was something wrong. There's something wrong with every one of my characters.
I see. And I've also mentioned this gentleman on every single show I do with voice actors. He's one of my, like you, he's one of my favorites growing up. And if you worked with him, I'm curious to know what it was like working with him too. And that was the late, great Phil Hartman.
I didn't work with him. I saw on stage before he went to New York. Brilliant actor, but I didn't work with him. So I don't know.
Okay.
I heard he was easygoing.
I always wanted to meet him. And there's two voice actors and I absolutely cried when they passed away when I was younger. He was one of them, and of course the late great Dana Hill. And I was
Yes.
curious to know, like, what was it like working with Dana on Goof Troops, and of course Jim Cummins.
Who?
Jim Cummins, who voiced
Jim Cummings was always a delight. I worked with Jim a lot. He was interesting. He was from Jonestown. He was in Tailspin, a lot of shows I was in. And he was like a drummer. So I always carried drumsticks in his back pocket. He was a delight and also very creative and very good. In fact, I think he's the #1 voiceover ever, including Mel Blanc. As far as working with, who else was it?
Dana Hill.
Dana Hill. I didn't work with her much.
Oh.
I didn't see her. We didn't have a series together. We had one series. And she was quite young when she passed. She was in her 20s, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah, she had serious diabetes. And so I didn't know her too well. She was a wonderful, talented gal, but I don't know her.
I understand. Another project that you worked on, of course, was Tiny Toons, and working on Tiny Toons and working with Charlie Adler and Tress McNeil.
Yeah, I don't remember much because I only guessed it in about 3 or 4 times. And usually, a lot of times when you guessed, especially a established show or a Warner Brothers show or something like that, and later on, like in the late 90s, right, you'd get there and there wouldn't be anybody else in the cast there. It was like a game, a video game. You just do your part and leave. So I didn't get to work with the ensemble. And generally, animation was and is an ensemble cast recording.
I
That's
understand.
fun.
What was the Smurfs like that too? Because I know you were Tuffy Smurf on the Smurfs, but was that like that too? Like where you just come in and just work?
No, well, depends on the day, but I had people in there, and but I didn't have what?
Did you have Don Messick in the studio?
Well, I work with Don quite a bit. And I'll have to tell you a story about that. But going on the Smurfs, I was to be Frank Welker's buddy, and he was a toughie or tough, right? No, he was like hefty or hefty, and he had a voice like this, and they speeded it up, the voices up a little bit. So Gordon Davidson, the director, said, "You got to go higher. You got to go. So you separate from Heavy. You're Tuffy.
I ain't afraid of no cat. Come here, Salmon Breath.
No higher.
I ain't afraid of no cat. Come here.
Oh my goodness, so high. I must have killed dogs on Cahuenga Boulevard when they sped it up, and I only did about 4 shows. But Frank wasn't there. He would have laughed a lot.
Were you able to like have an ensemble though, like record with the ensemble of the cast of G.I. Joe Real American? And if so, like did you get to work with another guy I had on my show, Michael Bell?
Oh, I worked with Michael a lot. He was incredibly talented, and he was one of the most talented or cast guys ever. When I came to town in 1979, I worked with Michael, and I worked with a lot of people in G.I. Joe. Now, the strike we had in the late 80s was due to the direction of Wally Burr, who directed G.I. Joe, because we'd go 12 hours.
Wow.
Because Wally loved to make pictures, and he's the only guy that would do multiple takes on a slate. In fact, when we got in the booth, we used to play G.I. Joe golf, and we'd look at a line, and I'd say to Neil Ross, I'll give you par 4. And inevitably he'd get a bogey, because you never did it. And, oh, that's a par 2, that's par 3. No, you went long. You did multiple takes on lines and get direction. And that just was horrible. It was a hard record on that show.
So it was like one long one instead of like breaking it up into like bits and pieces, right?
There was most shows were recorded. A 22.5-minute show were recorded in one sitting. What happened? You'd come in, you'd have coffee, you'd rehearse, and you record. Or with Susan Blue, like Men in Black, we just came in and recorded. Well, we'd have to record more because we'd had to learn as we went. Same amount of time. It was about 4 hours.
Was the same applied because you were the lead character on this show, and that was Denver the Last Dinosaur.
That's a funny one. Peter Keefe, I think, who's dead now, had me come in and audition, and he said, "Now make him big." And I said, "No." And he go, "Why?" He said, "Well, the head's little, so it's
Wowie chips. Wow, yum.
so every so often I dip down for the body, but I had no lines. It was
Wow.
it was sound effects. So I said, I need to have the storyboards for every show as it comes up, and they're like this thick. Look here, Petey. It's this thick.
Wow.
But I had to go through and circle when I would make a sound. And I think the lines were notated on the script, but I went by the storyboard and did the whole show. And it was a wonderful show to do. There were about 3 guys involved with that. Same thing as the Star Sheriff, or a show I did with Rob Paulson.
Was it Galaxy High?
Galaxy High was different. That was, oh, he's a really famous character actor. He played Ernest T. Bass on the Andy Griffith Show. Morris. I can't remember his name.
Oh, Howard Morris?
Yes, he
Oh, I know his
directed,
work.
and he made a deal with the whole cast. Said, look, if you all come for every show, and it was like 12 people. I mean, Nancy Cartwright, Hal Royal, David Landers, all these people. If you come for every show, I'll pay you for every show. Right? That's the deal. So we all came no matter what. And so we always had a cast to work with.
An incredible cast, like you said, like Nancy Cartwright, Hal
Oh,
Royal. Such great, great.
Danny Mann was in it.
And Howard Morris, I absolutely loved and his work on Garfield and Friends when he played Wade the Duck. I loved him like Cow and Chicken as Flem. He's very
Yeah, he was an angry, mean little guy. He was to direct, and he couldn't see us. And so I got to tell you a funny story. David Landers, who played Squiggy on Laverne and Shirley, was in the cast. And I could do a perfect David Landers. I sounded exactly like him when he talked like that, right? So he, Howie wouldn't look at the cast, and he only bring up David's mic. And when he did that, and he was going to give notes to David, I'd sneak on the ground 4 people away and come up a little. And he'd go, okay, hey, David, what I want you to do is I want you to do this and that's that. And I would say, shut up, you little Jew. And Howie would go crazy. He wouldn't look at what you talk, you're Jewish. What are you doing? And I did it twice. And David, bless his heart, never busted me. And the cast thought it was so hilarious. But he was a tough guy because he worked with Mel Brooks, and he was on the way down. He didn't like it. He thought of it as a way down.
He had a very unique voice though. Like you could tell it's his voice. Like Richard Kind, you could tell who like that it's his voice. Like
yes,
talk like this. Like nobody's watching you clowns. Like we need to do something here to get actually the thing going. We gotta get the ratings going. Like he would talk like that.
Yeah. I think he was a better performer than a director.
Yeah, because I thought he was great in the Tom and Jerry movie. I love David Landers as Frankie the Flea.
Oh yeah, well I'm talking about Howie Morris, but
Howard Morris.
I never saw David direct, but he's a wonderful. He was one of the funniest guys I ever met. I used to have lunch with him, and he'd tell me tales, and he was very, very humorous.
So cool. What was ensemble like that too for like later shows? Because I know you were on The Fairly Odd Parents as Lance Thruster, and of course, memory of working on Fairly Odd Parents, and this also has a big ensemble too. You have Tara Strong on this, Gray Desile, Duran Norris, Rob Paulson's on the show,
Yeah.
Carlos, Alaz. I can't pronounce his last name. I'm trying to pronounce it I'm terrible with last names.
That's okay. I know Carlos. We have bagels on Saturday morning a lot, and he and his family, and I can't pronounce it either. I went in alone on that show. I don't remember a cast, so I didn't get to fit in. Whereas I remember like working on a Mike Judge show, King of the Hill, and the whole cast was there for a week. Though they were there for a week. It was like a real show.
So Pamela Alden, Kathy Najimy, Johnny Hardwick, Bill, who played Stephen Root was there, right?
Well, there were a lot of people there, and when I worked with Pamela, she was Seagulls before she was married.
Which was before Alden.
And I remember doing a show that Bob Kurtz directed, and Lily Tomlin was in. I played her dad. And there's a funny story. I was between Lily Tomlin and Bonnie Hunt, another actress, very funny, very great improv. And Lily had a great sense of humor. And so we're going along, and Bonnie, she's on my left, and Lily's on my right. Bonnie goes, oh, no. After recording, she goes, oh, it's so horrible. It's so horrible. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, it's so horrible. And Bob Kurtz on the other side of the glass, the director goes, no, Bonnie, you're fine. You're doing fine. And Bonnie said, no, not me, Lily. And broke us all up. I mean, what a funny thing. And now I got to tell you, Pete, one of the things I'll always remember about what I've done and what I do, certainly in performing, is the delight and the joy in the ad libs. And when people go off, I guess it's that way in a lot of shows, but it's been a delight doing it. And even the lines we have, but that's more work than the improv. It's really good. Now I teach more, and patfraley.com, myname.com, has everything, including in the context my personal email, which is faster than my phone number, and that's real. But there's also, I wanted to point out, there's a site on the menu on patfraley.com called Free, and there's myriad, certainly over 50 free lessons about voiceover, how to separate, how to do this, how to do that. And so I would encourage people that are interested in getting really good to go there. Nose around.
I definitely am gonna. I definitely go on there because you're one of my favorite voice actors of all times. I have a few more questions before we wrap up, Pat. One of them
Sure.
was working on Hulk Hogan's Rock and Wrestling, voicing Hillbilly Jim. And did you get to meet any of those WWF wrestlers?
No, nobody did. I don't think so. I think Brad Garrett, that was Brad Garrett's first show. He always acted comedian that did Rob on Everyone Loves Raymond.
Yeah,
Right?
of
The
course.
big dog, right? Right. Yeah.
He was Big Dog on Two Stupid Dogs.
Yes. Yes. And he's got a very deep voice. He's 6'8". And it was his first show, and he wanted to get off the road as a comedian. He was opening for Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr., all these people, but he didn't want to do that. And he always tells people that I mentored him when I didn't. All I did was I was that kid like in 5th grade that went, go ahead, do it. Say that. Yeah. Because he was so funny, even though he didn't have funny lines, he'd ad lib and stuff, and he was very funny. But when none of us met, and so I just stood there in my head. There's a little high like Hulk Hogan's Rock and Wrestling. Hey, Billy Jim. I didn't know. I don't know if I've never even heard him to this day.
Interested. And I want to know, do you have any memories? Because you worked on the show. Cam Clark has worked on this show too, and that was The Adventures of Timon and Pumbaa with Ernie Sabella and Nathan Lanes.
You know, I think I filled in with one of them. The guy that Pumbaa that looks like this.
Oh.
Because he was on the East Coast or somebody got ill. That's when I got hired on that show. I replaced him. I did a sound alike. So I don't recall memories like that. No, you know, I have lots of memories, but one of the wonderful ones is from Bobby's World and that passing the ad libs on. It's a hilarious one.
And as a 90s kid growing up, I can honestly tell you, I loved watching Bobby's World.
Oh, I know. I wanted to let you know this, and I've said this before, but I was in Australia when I started voiceover in commercials. Then I thought, you know what? I'm really good at this. I should probably do this rather than theater. So about 3 years later, I'm in LA and I'm walking for my first job at Hanna-Barbera, which was an animation house. I hear Dawes Butler and Don Messick doing something, right? Immediately, I go back to when I was 9 years old at home in Seattle, watching a black and white movie and hearing those voices. My first job was with people that I grew up with, and it was shocking. It was just like the best ever.
And of course, you played many roles, both protagonist and antagonist, Pat. Which did you prefer playing?
Villains are written better.
Thank you.
But no one remembers them because, you know, I'll go to a signing convention, I'll sign to stuff, make some money, but the turtles are bank. Why? Everybody wants to be a turtle. Nobody wants to be Krang. But it was more fun to play.
It was like you said, villains have the most fun because that you have more like. Is it true like that villains can have the more freeway when saying stuff because it's like they could say anything they want because they're bad guys?
I think so. I think so. Nobody wants to go there.
No.
You know, in fact, when it got really evil, just me personally, I go to humor. I don't know why, but that's why Krang works so well, because he's hilarious. He's so stupid and thinks he's so brilliant.
Uh, you were you were so amazed on. So everybody was amazed on the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I
Right.
gotta ask you this too, like because I may sound like a total nerd asking this question, but when I am not on a strict military diet, I am an absolute foodie. And you worked on many projects, and I was curious to know which production company had the best catering scene.
Catering scene?
Yeah.
Well, I remember going to Chuck Blor's studio once, and we were doing an Italian restaurant. What's that? Olive Garden spot. He sat us down and had us served Olive Garden food and had the microphone in the middle to get us a realistic sound of a family at a table. And that's a memorable one. Aside from that, there was always craft service or coffee and little donuts in every studio we went to in LA. But we used to go, we'd have breakfast. We'd drop by LA studios because they had good bagels and croissants and stuff. Then for lunch, it was like salami studios because they had hot Jerusalem chicken, and they always had a really good meal. So we'd go to different studios and eat.
Last Ninja Turtle questions. Was there a particular line of any character you played, whether it be Casey Jones, Krang, Baxter, and his brother Barney Stockman? Because everyone knows that Baxter did have a brother named Barney who had orange hair. I knew that. I knew that difference in Raphael.
Did I do that or somebody else?
Yes. And you got
No.
so pissed off as Barney. You're like, my name is Barney. Baxter, it turns into a fly. Remember? I'm like, oh, Pat, you are nailing it.
That was early on. Well, I love because it was told to me by a cop once when I got pulled over, and I went, "Hello, officer," and he went, "Hello, violator." So the line that Casey Jones has, "Hello, violator," means a lot. I don't know why, but there's one line I love getting and love delivering. When the villain I always played Krang like he thought he would succeed, but he wouldn't, because deep down he knows he's a loser. So he'd go, "Finally, I rule the universe." And then the writers would write, "Oh no," right? Like it's from above, like you've seen it in movies. "Oh no," right?
Oh, the big nose.
Right, the big nose. So it'd go, "Finally, I rule the universe." And then I would read, "Oh no."
I'll tell you three of my favorite lines. One you already know because I said it as Burn Thompson already. That was one of my favorites.
Yeah.
One of my favorite Krang line is, I think it was called the old switcheroo, where when Shredder and Splinter switch personalities, and
Yeah.
then Bebop and Rocksteady were like, maybe he was getting hit by one of them rays is what did it, and you said as Krang, you were like, Ray? What Ray? And like, and it's like you were like this won't hurt too much. And then one line, and this was a one-time character too that I absolutely love that you played as G Clef the Mad Maestro, and it was near the ending where Leonardo returns and joins the team, and you go as G Clef, you go, "Talk is cheap," especially with corny dialogue with that. Aim those speakers. Like I
don't remember it, but I always was looking for the change up. Do it one way and then do it another, because that's comedy.
It is. And I just love how excited you are, like, whenever you nail these lines. Like, I love the excitement in your voice. Like, it's like, to the viewers at home, including myself, I felt this. I felt like this emotion that you're saying in the show.
Well, that's something that God gave me, and that's an exuberance and a passion and an ability to be exaggerated comfortably. And I've told you why I got that from the deaf. But that's the way God does things. He gives everyone, he gives some of us certain skills and abilities. And I could always sit around and go, I can't do theater because I can't do Chekhov, but I can do Dinky the Duck, right? And in fact, I did an interview once where I said, you know, here I am. I was weeping. I was going Whitman College, BA, Cornell University, Master of Fine Art and Acting, and now I'm Dinky the Duck. I'm happy to be Dinky the Duck.
Very, very cool. And the final question, and this is going to segue into the next question, and that is, because my show is an open forum, this is the part of the show where where my guest stars they can say anything they want, they can talk about anyone, they can promote, hype, anything they want. And my question to you is, what's next for Patrick Fraley? It's the floor is yours, sir. Take it away.
Right. Well, I don't have anything to sell. You know, I teach, and if they go to my site, patfraley.com, it's all there. The home study courses, the free lessons and stuff. So there's nothing to sell. I would just say a couple of truisms, because when you get old, you get all this wisdom and you have no energy to do it with, right? But I would say if you want to get excellent and not be satisfied with good, that's excellent. That's a good thing to do, because you have to go after work if you're good, because everybody's good.
Yeah,
and everybody gets better when they work. Well, why? Because they get to hone their craft, they get to do things, they get to practice, you know, that, yeah, big deal. It's too late then. You got to be excellent from the get-go. It's like an 8x10 shot. You got to be look good. Not so good they don't recognize you, but you got to look good, right?
Yeah.
So go for excellence. And then also look for a teacher that is encouraging. Not just no one that shines you on, but someone that and I'm a Christian, speaks the truth in love. So I speak the truth. I never shine on a student, but I don't know. I don't have to be disparaging to them. You know, I don't have to be a teacher that says, "What were you thinking?" That's more about teaching than learning. So learn from somebody that cares about you, that doesn't let go when you need help to get something. You don't teach people juggling by throwing 8 balls at them. You give them 1, then 2, and maybe 3. Oh my goodness. And then you add. And that's the way a good teacher is. He teaches simply and compounds. That's it. That's all I got to say.
Let me say this too in regards to teaching though. If I ever pursue a career in voice acting, there's only 2 voice actor and actress that I would want as my coach. So you are one of them, and Sue Blue is one of them. And this Blue, if you're watching this, that I definitely would want you as one of my coaches if I ever pursue voice acting. It's
Well,
either
I'm going to tell you, you can't go wrong. I mean, she is a brilliant teacher and a director. And as I mentioned, I would have a hobby without Susan Blue. And I loved watching and working with her. We worked at Filmation on 120 shows and other shows before she turned to direction. And I probably worked more with Sue than any other person. Totally.
and both of you are legends. That's why if I would ever consider this like this career choice, I would definitely ask you both for not only that, but you would be the first 2 voice actors, voiceover artists. I would go, I want you to sit me down and tell me everything not to do in voice acting, so that way I can just get rid of everything right there, right now.
Yeah, wouldn't that be good? I don't work that way. I don't think that way. I always think about what can I do that's good.
Oh, okay.
And also I have a propensity to be different. I don't know why. It could be some kind of neuroses when I was little, but I do things differently than other people. I don't like competition, maybe. I like to be unique, and I'm kind of fearless. So be fearless.
Yeah.
You know, there's something I tell students, and they always laugh, and there's a little truth in it. When they say, should I do it like a duck, or should I do it like a beaver, or what? And I go, hey, why not? They're already not hiring you. And so there's a little truth in it, but with a little humor.
Yeah, and also, Pat, let me just say, not only are you a legend to all 70s, 80s, and 90s children, such as myself, to everyone out there, and you probably get that a lot, and also that you are the voice of our childhood, but you're also you are definitely I was going to tell you, oh yeah, you have this incredible gift that you could take a 32-year-old guy and bring him down here and make him feel like he's 7 years old again and take him back to 1997. You are one of the best.
That's a good way if you enjoyed yourself as a 7-year-old. It's a bad way if I try to aggrandize myself above others. God made us all the same.
I know. I'm just saying, like, how, like, it's like you bring back so much childhood memories, and I'm sure you get that a lot. And
no, I don't.
You don't?
I mean, when I go to a convention, I'm surrounded by people that grew up watching me or listening to me, and that's a delight. But no, I don't get that much.
Oh, okay. And one thing I've always said, like, I've always had a huge passion for voice acting ever since I was 6 years old. Like, and I use this my show as a as a platform to not only thank the people that give me those memories growing up. Of course, you're one of them too. But it's my way of like trying to get to know the people I actually, looked up to, like, growing up, and studied the art of voice acting. Like, I would have been like, if I did voice acting, I'd definitely be a student of the game. Like, you can tell me tell me to name you 30 voice actors, and I can name you right there in the spot. Like, I could say Pat Fraley, Tom Kenny, Billy West, Tara Strong, Great
Right.
Sybil, like all these names. I studied the works. And
Well, you know what, Pete, you need to do it. Forget Billy, forget Tara, forget them all. Just be Pete. And go ahead and email me if you want to do it. I'll encourage you. I'll walk you through what I do. I'll help you.
absolutely.
But do it.
I'm gonna before we conclude, I'm going to send this to you on Facebook. I sent you a friend request. Did you get it?
Oh, I have no idea.
Okay, I'll send you the link through email too. But before we go, I just want to do something that you deserve for all these years of giving us memories after memories, and that is thank you, Pat. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Pat. Thank you so much for not just not only those childhood memories growing up, but thank you for an incredible interview. And as soon as I'm going to edit this, and I'm going to give you a copy right away.
Thanks so much. And goodbye to you, Pete.
Bye to you too, sir. And it was so good to see you. Have a good day.
Good to see you.
Bye bye.